Well, hello everybody. First December release we got is Godzilla -1.
Yep, -1 indeed.
And I had heard about this for some time that we would get a new Godzilla movie, and I was kind of nervous about how this one was going to get handled because I didn't think it would be released close to where we are,
Yep.
I thought we were going to have to travel far. But thankfully our local theater got some screenings, so that was nice.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think, it's nice that we got a Godzilla film released in the States because apparently Toho had a lot of confidence in this one, so they gave it a mass release in the US.
Yep.
Because historically, not many Godzilla films that were made in Japan have been released in the States. Like, there's been a few, but this one was a special occasion.
I would imagine just because nowadays, a lot of Godzilla, or at least kaiju like monster gets released, it tends to get good reviews by the fans.
Mostly, but critics will like a kaiju film if they can find some interesting material in there to talk about.
Yeah.
And so I think to really open this video, I think we should talk about our history with Godzilla, like if you have any in particular.
Well, I've seen some of like the Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. I've seen the Japan's versions of Shin Godzilla a little bit, as we talked about, on the way there and back.
Yeah, Shin Godzilla. That was another reboot for the character.
Yep. I've also seen some of we mentioned the 98 film.
The 1998 Roland Emmerich remake.
Yep, the remake, yep. And then there's some other Godzillas. I know I've seen the one with Mothra, with the baby Godzilla as well. Because I've seen the baby Godzilla in the past somewhere. And he was able to fly, so.
I don't remember baby Godzilla flying in any of them.
I thought I saw something like that where he was flying. But I guess I have to take a look back. I know you've seen a lot of the Godzilla films, though.
I have, and I will admit I am a fan of Godzilla in the sense that I usually like the fights in these, the destruction, but where it gets a little frustrating can be with the human characters. Like, you'll have your interesting characters here and there, but other times it's like, I really want to get to the destruction.
Well, yeah, I know, and I think that's the main focus a lot of time whenever the human characters are underdeveloped, to say the least, because they know that the main focus is the kaiju.
Yeah, because the thing about the human characters in these films is they fit archetypes or like character types like scientist or soldier or the everyman or that really smart kid in the room that knows how to take these things out.
Yeah, or at least have an idea of how to take it out or something like that.
Yeah, and so with Godzilla, we are actually in the fourth era of Godzilla films. There have been 3 total before this one.
Yeah.
The first era was the original film from 1954, and that lasted all the way to the mid-70s.
Yeah.
So that was 15 films total, and that was the Showa era, which it started serious, and then as it went along, it became more fun and family-orientated, because they were focusing on monster fights, less on serious themes. But in the second era, the Heisei era, that's when they went back to the more serious stuff while having the monster action. And that era actually ended with the death of Godzilla. Godzilla versus Destroyer. And in that film, Godzilla is basically having a meltdown because his heart's like a nuclear reactor. If it melts down and blows up, that's the end of the world.
Yeah.
But thankfully the humans stop him towards the end. But it was a really sad scene when he dies at the end of versus Destroyer.
Yeah.
And around that point, that's when Toho decided we're going to sort of put the character in a retirement mode while America makes their versions.
Yeah.
That's when we get to Roland Emmerich's failed 1998 remake, which is universally hated by critics and fans alike.
Yeah.
And I understand why they hate the 1998 remake, and I'll tell you what it is. Basically, Roland Emmerich was not a Godzilla fan and only did this for the money.
Yep.
He only did the 98 film for the money, and so you can, if you ever watch it and then you get it, the history of Godzilla, it's like, Emmerich, he should not have been the right man for the job.
Yeah.
And even in later years, he's regretted making the 1998 remake.
Yeah.
And there were going to be sequels to it originally, which would have had, more monsters. You would have seen his version of Monster Island. And there was an animated continuation of that, which was a television series, which I have seen, but not in its entirety, where it was basically a Monster of the Week type of show, but it was fun, and it was very well animated for what it was.
Yeah.
Then we get to the third era, which is the Millennium Era, which Toho did not like the 98 remake, so they brought Godzilla back pretty quick with Godzilla 2000.
Yeah.
And there were a few films sprinkled in until they ended everything with a 50th anniversary movie called Godzilla Final Wars, which was basically a monster mashdown. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And then, of course, Godzilla went into retirement mode for quite some time.
Until 2014.
Yes, with the birth of the MonsterVerse, which we're not going to go into that. We're going to save everything about that until Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire comes out.
Yep.
And then Shin Godzilla started the fourth era of Godzilla. Only Shin Godzilla was more, like you said, we were talking about this, taking everything in a more horror angle while still keeping the symbolism of what Godzilla is.
Yep, and you mentioned it was off of the
the Fukushima nuclear plant when that there was an incident in the earthquake of 2011.
Yep, that caused that. And this variation of Godzilla, Shin, this one's a lot more powerful and horrifying. More powerful because it was a rapid growth.
Rapid acceleration, rapid evolution, I would say. And it is a horror angle because when people saw Shin Godzilla, they said he looked really scary, more menacing looking, kind of zombie-like almost. There were a few people who said he looked zombie-like almost.
It did kind of look like a zombie-like, or at least imagine Godzilla. I don't know if you've seen it or something.
I've seen Shin Godzilla.
Okay, so for the people, imagine Godzilla without the skin, and it looks, and the color of it is like the human flesh color. That's what Shin Godzilla looked like.
Almost like a decaying corpse, but it's more like otherworldly. It's like something beyond our imagination. Yeah,
and then imagine it also with like the sharp teeth too, and the wide eyes too. But like you said, like a decaying corpse, basically.
Yeah.
But a decaying corpse that is alive.
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, I did like Shin Godzilla for what it was, but even I'll be the first to admit that Shin Godzilla is, in every conceivable way, overpowered.
Overpowered indeed, because compared to the other Godzillas, this one had also, coloring-wise, purple.
Purple atomic breath, which got mixed with fire.
Yep, mixed with fire. Lasers also started going out in the back. And he also, when it fires, spews out the radiation too.
Yes.
Kind of like if you had like a flamethrower or something like that, you aim it towards the ground, or I'm going to say, bringing up Monster Hunter a little bit, Teostra, where you flame down and it kind of like, like bursts, or any other like fire monster when they're like breathing down.
It just scorches the land completely.
Yep, scorches the land. Kind of like a waterfall, basically, but except instead of like water, it's fire, and it's just kind of like spreading out, basically.
Oh, definitely. And that's where the Fukushima comparison can come in, because there was a lot of nuclear waste and it like spewed out.
Yeah.
They have collected that, and for some reason the Japanese government has said they want to dump it into the Pacific Ocean. And I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah, that would cause a lot more problems in the Pacific side.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's protests of it, but I have no idea what they're doing with it nowadays. But anyway, after Shin Godzilla, then we got the Netflix anime trilogy, which I have seen, and you said you saw a little bit of it.
Little bit of it, yeah, and I've seen more of the actual Godzilla animation one, if that's the one.
Singular Point,
rather than the previous ones.
Yeah, the anime trilogy, I've heard some negative opinions on it.
Yeah.
I would say the first one, Planet of the Monsters, was not that bad.
Yeah.
But as the series went on, that's where it was like, oh gosh, yeah, this is not that good.
Yeah.
Because they made Mechagodzilla nanotechnology instead of a giant mech, which I have no idea what was going through their heads at the time.
Yeah.
And then when it got to the Planet Eater, they introduced Ghidorah, but then people who saw the Planet Eater said it was a very pretentious movie. Like, it was going off on this like pseudo-intellectual mixed with like religious symbolism dialogue, because the aliens in Planet Eater, they worshipped Ghidorah. I think they worshipped Ghidorah as a god. Ghidorah was their god.
Yeah.
And so basically, like, yeah, people did not like the pretentious way that movie was presented, especially with its dialogue.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had Singular Points, which I thought was better than the trilogy of movies.
Yeah, because I remember that one being where it's like, it showed the actual Godzilla, and he was very powerful too, and it seemed like all the main character, or at least the good, or at least the humans, were no matched.
Yeah, and then we had other monsters from the series pop up, which was really nice.
Yeah.
It felt kind of more like the fun monster action that I have seen in the Showa era, along with the Millennium and Heisei eras.
Yeah.
And then this fourth era is called the Reiwa era, the Reiwa. I think that's how you spell it. Reiwa era, or however you say it.
Reiwa, or Reiwa, Ria, or Reiwa.
Something like that, yeah. And so this new Godzilla, we can talk about -1 now, because we've sort of kind of talked about his history briefly. Why don't you go ahead and say what you thought of this?
Well, kind of like how you said it, it's kind of like a remake of the original Godzilla films. But for me, it did bring some horror elements, kind of like from Shin Godzilla, but not really. But it was mainly like you said, a remake, sort of the original Godzilla.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought about this, because I knew going in what this type of movie was going to be, because I had a lot of experience with the earlier films.
Yeah.
And so as soon as we walked out, I was like, this is exactly how I thought it was going to go. Yeah. I was not disappointed by this.
It was a really good film. And I was thinking, just because of -1 and some of its horror parts, not a whole lot, but some parts of it were horror-like. So I was thinking kind of like Shin Godzilla based off the trailers, and some of its aspect of like, ooh, yeah, this could be horrifying a little bit.
There was a little bit of horror angle in there, but they didn't overemphasize on it like they did with Shin.
No, they did not. I think they kind of start off with the horror a little bit on the island scene initially, right away.
Well, before we get into that, I was going to say that, I agree that this is basically a reboot, but also, like I said, kind of a remake of the earlier material. Because there's a lot of stuff in this where it was much closer to the original 1954 film than half the other Godzilla movies that exist.
Yeah, because it was mainly Japan territory base. That is kind of like the plot point of it. Like, first it was the island, then it went back to the mainland.
Yeah, and so the other thing too is I don't want to go too heavy into spoilers with this, because I knew what kind of formula this movie was going to follow, like the earlier material. Basically, we see Godzilla. He has encounters with the humans. There's a lot of slow plotting and characters set up in development. Then we get to the destructive sequences. Then we get to the humans and how they're going to plan to take out Godzilla, and then they attack Godzilla and they end up winning.
Yep. And also all the characters too in it is kind of like how we describe it earlier, in terms of like, there's either a particular scientist, a soldier, or somebody that knows how to take out Godzilla. This one is more of all that, into individual characters. Yeah,
there's a lot of different characters here, but they do fit their respective archetypes. Like, you have your scientist, you have your military, and then you got your main character, who I actually found kind of interesting in this.
Yeah, because he was a former kamikaze pilot, who, as it pertains, former, which means he didn't go through with it.
Yeah, so the movie opens, basically it's in the final days of World War II.
Yep.
In 1945. And so basically these Japanese soldiers, they're on an island during these final days. And so later at night, they get attacked by basically Godzilla in his dinosaur form.
Yeah, so he doesn't have not necessarily the radioactive yet, but he's, in dinosaur size, and he kind of acts like a dinosaur too, basically, in that, where he is running around pretty fast, agile, and he is just biting off.
And he's eating some of the soldiers.
It looked like he was just ripping them and tossing them to the side, rather than just like actually engulfing them. Like, he bites them and then throws them.
Yeah, I did see that, but I was just kind of expecting him to at least eat one of these soldiers.
Yeah, it almost felt like he was about to eat one of them, but it was like a bite, lift up, and then toss.
Oh yeah, and this dinosaur form is a little different from what was seen in the original films.
Yeah.
Because in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, they established that Godzilla was a dinosaur, but he did not have dorsal fins on his back.
Yeah.
And so the dinosaur, it dies
Yeah.
defending the Japanese soldiers from American soldiers in the film. At least I think that's what I remember. And then the radiation irradiated Godzilla in his dinosaur form, and that's where he got bigger and much more menacing.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, he's already got the dorsal fins.
Yeah, but I don't think it probably was radioactive yet until the nuclear explosion.
Yeah, he didn't get radioactive until after the nuke dropping.
Yeah.
But the way that this initial attack scene in his dinosaur form was shot with the soldiers, I got some Jurassic World vibes from this.
It did get some Jurassic World or Jurassic Park, the whole Jurassic universe vibe to it, where he is agile, he's biting off humans, and being very destructive.
Yeah, and the way it was shot, too, it reminded me of, like, the nighttime sequences that we have seen in the newer Jurassic World movies.
Yeah.
And the way he was animated with the CG, I was like, this looks like it came out straight out of either the first Jurassic World, the nighttime sequence in Fallen Kingdom, any of the night sequences in Fallen Kingdom, or any of the night sequences in Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah.
It felt an awful lot like that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the soldiers, they're fighting back, and, of course, they're seeing this creature, but, like, the thing is, basically, they're like, get the 20mm gun. We can take it out with the 20mm.
Yeah.
But, of course, they obviously...
Froze up.
Yeah, they froze up. Main character freezes up. He's like, I can't do it. I'm too scared.
Yeah, because it's like, he's silent, like, almost in everything. If you're silent, they won't hear, see, whatever. It won't do anything if you're silent until the other soldiers, panic and fire out of panic.
Yeah, and one of them actually says 20mm can kill anything. You can kill this thing with the 20mm. And I'm like, yeah, Godzilla's indestructible. There's no way it's going to take this thing out.
Yeah, no, and I was kind of figuring, like, no, it won't kill it. It will provoke it, at the very least, which means he will probably die.
Yeah, and so this is where it happens with the formula of these movies is they don't know any better, and they provoke the monster, and it straight up attacks them.
Yeah, which left with only 2 survivors on that island.
Oh, yeah.
The main character and the main engineer, basically.
Yeah.
The head engineer.
Yeah, and then the main engineer is like, you fool, you didn't take him out, you panicked.
Yeah, he panicked. It's like, you could have taken him out, but it's like, as the audience, it's like, it would have been suicidal.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when we cut back to the main character returning to the mainland, we see Tokyo has been bombed in an air raid, which I thought was pretty accurate, because I remember in my history classes, I remember reading that there were a lot of cities in Japan that got essentially firebombed before they dropped the main nukes on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
There was a film, I believe, The Battle of Midway, where it introduced kind of right away in the intro film where there were some bombing raids, especially in Tokyo.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there were some bombing raids there, which now the main character returned back to. Also, the emphasis on, because it would have been suicidal to shoot Godzilla initially, like it was, he didn't went through the suicide run, which the main engineer before the night occurred, they found out that, or at least they, dissect the plane saying, there was nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the island was supposedly for maintenance kamikaze pilots, because of the faulty. But they never realized it was faulty, which will begin to haunt this, the main character.
Yes, and so the main character, he basically has PTSD in this, and the film emphasizes that he has nightmares of the encounter with Godzilla on the island.
Yeah.
And so he's like haunted. He's like, it's that horror of war aspect.
Yeah.
There's just something about the war. It's psychologically damaged you, and it's just not going to leave you.
Yeah. And that's what he's kind of like, it's growing on that. It's the idea of encountering Godzilla, and also him surviving the encounter while everyone else is dead. And it's just like, for him, it's like, why am I still alive when everyone else is dead?
Yeah, and he's still like, I didn't end this war. I have to keep fighting.
Yeah.
And so basically we see a lot of that and his interactions with all these characters. He has to like come to terms and sort of like put an end to all of his suffering, so to speak.
Yeah, but as it was growing, there are some things around him that tries to help him out, to say the least. Whether that be his encounter with the woman with the random baby.
Yeah, he basically encounters this random woman out in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And so he forms this surrogate family of sorts with them.
Yeah, and the reason why it is because initially you thought that it was an abandoned, or it was a single mother with the child. Supposedly the husband died, but no, she tells the main character, no, she just found,
She found the kid and she basically took the kid as her own.
She took the care of her own from the wishes of the original dying mother, and he was like, wait, why?
Well, someone had to take care of the kid. We couldn't leave him out in the open.
Which he also felt that same way too, where it's like he could have just left the baby there, but instead he didn't. He went to find her, so it's like he had that same sense of somebody has to take care of the baby.
Oh, definitely. And as time goes on, they sort of form this like artificial family, like I said, surrogate family, and they're kind of, doing their best to keep it together, but they still have their arguments, as always.
Yeah, whether it's hiding things, the PTSD, all that sort of stuff. Are they like a legit family or not? But it's like you've lived with them now for a while. You've basically grown up with each other together. You two have now taken care of this basically orphan child, basically.
Yeah, and this actually was pretty realistic in terms of the drama that it was trying to do. Like, there wasn't anything I found overly dramatic. There wasn't anything that was cheesy. It was more human and like grounded.
Yeah, where it was just the guy suffering from the war, the aftermath of the war, basically, while she is just trying to live on, basically.
Oh, yeah. And then in the aftermath of the war, because you mentioned that, we see a recreation of that famous stock footage of one of the atomic bombs going off in like the middle of the ocean.
Yep.
They recreate it, and you see that Godzilla, he doesn't die from this. He basically gets irradiated and absorbs all that radiation.
Yep, and then you also get to see scenes of him, or at least of the military, trying to, detecting something, and it's kind of plotting out this direction towards Japan. Yeah,
it was the American military. They had been tracking this thing, and basically they plotted it out, and then it's going to strike Japan.
And and the American were like, well, nothing we can do about it. We have to worry about the Soviets.
Yeah, because basically they establish if the Americans get involved, then the Soviets are like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you getting so close to our territory?
Yeah, with its U.S. military navy, which is understandable.
So they're basically like, we'll leave it to Japan to deal with. They don't need us. They got it.
Yeah, which is But at the same time, what can you do in that standpoint, basically? But before that point, too...
Well, actually, before you continue, when the American military, tracks Godzilla with the tracking plotting on the map, this is actually kind of a similar plot point to what was seen in the 1998 remake. Basically, that version of the monster, it starts in the French Polynesian, and then they track its path all the way to New York City.
Yep.
So that's kind of the exact same thing here.
Yeah. But also, before we get to the second counter of Godzilla, the main character does eventually get a job, a well-paid job too.
Basically, he has to disarm a ton of mines or bombs that were left out in the ocean.
Yep, which is a risky job.
But he's got some experience with his shooting skills.
Yep, thankfully for his days as an air pilot, even though he was a kamikaze. But because of his air piloting days, he knows how to shoot a gun, or at least a turret, basically.
Yeah, because we see a scene where one of the guys on the tugboat, he's like, but he can't seem to hit it.
Yeah.
And then the main character's like, well, you have to get it at an angle of sorts. You have to be very precise.
Yeah.
And so he does, and then.
Yeah. Which kind of helps him a little bit because he gets up, grows a bond with these people, with the tugboat people.
Yeah, and they share their histories with each other.
Yeah.
And, they form their bonds so they can get to know each other better and stick together on this job. And before the initial attack sequence, there was something I was comparing with the tugboat scenes and the way they were shot on the ocean. It
Yeah.
reminded me of like Jaws
Yeah.
when the characters are out in the ocean on the orca and they're hunting the shark. The way, again, this is the Spielberg influence that's coming in, because there was Spielberg influence on this.
Yeah.
It just reminded me so much of Jaws, and in a good way too.
Yeah. Where, now Godzilla is like swimming in a ferocious kind of way.
Yeah, kind of like how the shark was hunting down these Brody, Hooper, and Quint.
Yeah.
And it was like that, only there's more fins, not just one.
Yeah. But also, too, now a year passed by, or I think 2 years since 45, because it gets to 47.
Yeah, it gets as high as 47.
That's when the second time that they encounter Godzilla.
Yeah, they encounter him out in the water, and then they get away because, well, the way Godzilla lets his presence known is there's all these fish that rise up to the surface.
Yeah.
A lot of dead fish. And there's this moment where all these fish are rising up, and I'm like to myself, that's a lot of fish.
Yep, and it's like, oh, he's coming, and it's like, because he first initially saw that on the island, he didn't know at the time, but now since he's seen it again, it's like, oh, he's here.
Yeah, and so Godzilla starts chasing them down, and then they're going away. They're trying to get away, and they get some of the bombs, and then they like cast them out to Godzilla, and like, of course, the first one doesn't work, and Godzilla keeps chasing them.
Then they eventually get to the second one after they also try firing at him with the 13 millimeter, which was very ineffective as kind of predicted. So then they launched a second one, which was
Yeah, it was defective. It didn't really go off
because of the wirings. Because it was like, oh, it ripped prematurely.
You didn't get lucky there. And actually, I forgot to mention with the first bomb, when they do get it into Godzilla, it blows. But then you like see all this flesh towards the face the flesh towards the face that's like falling off.
Yep.
But then it like
regenerates.
This was a really cool effect, by the way, where it like regenerates.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so this Godzilla regenerates now.
Yeah, compared to the other variation of Godzilla where it didn't really, none of them really regenerated.
They were more indestructible.
Yeah, it had like a lot more of the hardened. Shin really didn't show that per se until like more into his rapid growth, or growth and power basically.
Yeah, and the only way they could kill Shin was by freezing it.
Yeah, so this variation of Godzilla is different in terms of it can regenerate.
Yeah, it can regenerate. It's still kind of indestructible, but this is like much closer to what the original Godzilla is.
Yeah, so it can be blown up. Like it's a lot more you can destroy it even though it's still indestructible, but it can be hurt. It's just that he can regenerate compared to the other Godzillas.
Yeah, and basically this is where you can't kill Godzilla that so easily. You have to get really creative with how you kill it.
Yeah.
Which is actually, I was comparing this, it's kind of like the Regenerator in Dead Space, where you try cutting off the limbs of the Regenerator, that's not going to work. It's going to keep on chasing you until you're dead. And the only way you kill the Regenerator in the original Dead Space, I've not played the remake yet, but basically in the original, the Regenerator's like really close to these engines of a dropship, and the intense heat like burns it away and like disintegrates it to atoms until it's nothing.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like you got to get creative with how you can kill a regenerating animal or monster in this case.
Yeah, regenerate one. Although in this case, it's already known of the heat, so you can't necessarily just burn it basically because it already has like atomic nuclear infused with it. So it's gonna be, you gotta be creative, find a different way.
Oh, definitely. Fire and heat isn't gonna kill this thing. You gotta get more creative.
Yeah. So, or at least the standard of fire or heat, just the heat itself. You have to get a lot more creative.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, though, heading back, second one goes off after he kind of like engulfs it, or at least kind of like got it on the teeth.
Yeah, like the bomb goes in his mouth, and actually when I saw this effect, this looked really realistic. I thought it was practical.
Yeah.
Maybe it was, I don't know, but I know the CG on Godzilla was actually really well done.
Yeah.
Because Godzilla's mostly been like a rubber suit in the previous movies, whereas this one was computer-generated imagery. But it was really well done.
Yeah.
I would say Japan has like caught up in terms of CG technology.
Yeah.
Because if you see the CG in like some earlier Godzilla films, it's really not that good.
Yeah. And then this one, you can really then notice the regenerative effect of this Godzilla. Because then he's just like, alright, now you really pissed me off.
Oh, yeah. And then this bigger ship comes in and assists the characters and starts attacking.
Yep, which then it's like, okay, now you, since you're firing at me.
Oh, yeah. And so Godzilla, of course, takes out the bigger ship, gives out his famous roar, and then he just goes off and he's like, I'm gonna go get the city.
Well, before that, though, he kind of does get hit because as he was clawing at it, ripping it apart, the ship does fire back, which then he's like, okay, screw this. And he gets underneath and shows off the atomic, or this variation of the atomic breath, which is in any previous Godzillas, we know he fires and it kind of like already just blows up with a radioactive, like fire.
Well, basically, in the older movies, he fires the atomic breath and it will just destroy anything in its path.
Yeah.
Or it'll blow back another monster.
Yeah.
In this case, however, and by the way, the underwater scene where he like gets it from underwater, that's the exact same thing Godzilla did in Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yep. Oh yeah, but instead of how like in that one, he fires it through like any other Godzilla. This one, he fires it and then it kind of like goes down and then boom, like a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, and I do want to get a little more into the nuclear explosion thing once we get to the city attack sequence. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, he destroys the ship, and then, of course, the characters keep on moving because they get spared.
They get spared. Well, they do get spared because the guy gets knocked out cold, and then we reappear at the hospital because, aircraft came by and get him out of there.
Yeah.
Got him out of there.
And I think this is where some of the human scenes kind of started to lose me a little bit. Because sometimes in Godzilla films, there'll be human scenes where I'm like, okay, this is setting up the characters, slow plotting, contributing to the storyline. Here's where I'm like, yeah, I can see, I was getting some of the details, but I was also getting a little lost at the same time.
Yeah, because this one we're at the hospital, and the main character wants to warn Japan of Godzilla, because he is kind of like on the trajectory to Japan.
Yeah, now I'm remembering a little bit. He's like, we gotta send out evacuation orders now, otherwise there's gonna be a lot of deaths.
And they were like, no, because if you set it out, it will cause a lot of panic and confusion, which will be a lot of trouble.
Which is kind of like a cliche in like all these monster or disaster films where they're like, we have to warn people now, we got to start evacuations. But then the politicians are like, well, it'll cause a mass panic and confusion.
Yep. And of course, I mean, the people telling him that were on his side a little bit, but they know, in terms of the politician side a little bit, even though they're like, at least the one captain is like, the freaking government.
Yeah, that's just going to cause so much trouble. We can't cause a panic.
He's like, well, they will screw the government anyways.
Yeah, and then after that, I'm not quite sure what happens next in the human scenes. I may have forgotten.
Next one goes back to the house where it went back to the artificial family drama, where this time it's the wife who, even though they were not married quite yet, but she was wanting to get him to open up more.
And then he obviously was struggling with that.
Yep, he was struggling. He did open up, but he was struggling with it. Because it's like he's still suffering from that PTSD a little bit. And he told her about Godzilla. And this was also during the time, too, when she actually got a job. Was it a desk service job or something like that?
I don't quite remember what it was.
It was like a desk position job or of sorts for her. But anyways, so he tells her about Godzilla, basically, his encounters with Godzilla, which reopens the PTSDs. And then the next day, he kind of wakes up in a happier setting, and then he asks himself, can he finally move on? But that's when the
air raid sirens go off, and they're like, attention, Godzilla is coming!
Yeah, because he got through the defenses, the sea defenses, which is just a couple bombs and or sea mines, and that didn't work out. So yeah, he's approaching the city where she was working at.
Yeah, and so as he gets closer, this was a really impressive sequence.
Yep, because then this kind of goes back to the original Godzilla sort of like the scenes, basically.
Yeah, like as soon as Godzilla comes out and he starts stomping around and wrecking all the cities, they play the iconic theme, which any Godzilla fan knows goes da 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 da. That was nice.
He also does the kind of like do 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 the like the slow stomping, but it caused a lot of like damage to the surroundings too.
Yeah, and then the iconic roar obviously comes out.
Yep. But then he also gets a little bit more agile a little bit when it comes to destroying buildings a little bit too.
Oh, definitely. And like the way Godzilla is walking, he's got his hands out like this, just like the classics,
Yep.
and then he's slow stomping around, and he looked really menacing in this.
Yeah.
I will not deny that.
And instead of the one guy going, "Oh, it's Godzilla,"
Yeah, with the bad dubbing.
yeah, but except as the wife that was like, "It's Godzilla."
Yeah, and she's in a train.
Yep, because it stopped, and then she turns around and sees, Godzilla in the distance walking towards the train.
Yeah, and then as Godzilla's like wrecking the city, he's like causing the ground to rise up, and then he's like destroying and plowing his way through the buildings, and then there's a sequence where he like bites down on the train like that, and then he just kind of swings it around.
Yep. And then she falls to the water. Thankfully, that he was over the water, so where she could just drop down in safely.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really fun sequence to watch.
Yep, and then everyone was running, and she was also trying to run as best she could under herself in wet conditions a little bit. Then the main character gets to her, and they start to run away.
Yeah, they're starting to run away, but then like Godzilla sort of stops midway through his destruction. Of course, he does a tail swipe, which causes a lot of buildings to collapse.
Yep, but he stops midway because a lot of Japanese tanks comes out from, I think it was like right next to one of the Senate buildings or something like that, and they start firing at him, and then...
And actually, I just remembered, he like stomps on a bunch of people, and you hear him get squashed like bugs.
Yeah.
And when he does his tail swipe, he probably killed like a lot of people.
Oh, he probably did a good amount just from the buildings, just early, bricks flying everywhere.
Yeah.
Probably hitting more than a few people in the head.
Oh, definitely.
At fast speeds.
And then, of course, the military, like you said, they send in their tanks, but none of that is effective against Godzilla.
No, it just provoked him a little bit to where then he launches his he
launches the atomic breath, but this is a little different from how we've seen it normally with Godzilla. Yeah. Basically, the dorsal fins are now more retractable.
Yeah.
Like, they come out one by one, and they all light up blue.
Yeah.
And then Godzilla, he gets up like this.
Well, he kind of, like, breathes in, like he's, getting... Yeah, he breathes in like he's getting ready to, like...
Yeah, and then... The atomic breath gets shot out, and then as soon as it hits the tanks...
Well, yeah, as soon as it hits its target, then it dims down, like, it goes boom, and then it dims, and then as soon as the last point dims down, then it just goes boom.
Yeah, and the explosion looks like an actual nuke got dropped.
Yep.
You got the mushroom cloud, and then the large blast debris, and it's like blowing away at all the buildings.
It blows away, but then it also retracts back. Because it goes whooshing away, and then it sucks everything back in. And then it's just like he wakes up, and, everything's destroyed, like a nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
And he turns, and he sees Godzilla and the giant mushroom cloud. And then black rain.
Yeah, which is actually what happened when they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There was a black rain that started falling down.
Except also another difference in this one is, even though it is a nuclear-like explosion, radiation level, though, not as high.
Yeah, that was kind of like they really needed to spike up the radiation a bit. I don't know why they kept it to a minimum.
Yeah.
Maybe Godzilla absorbed a large amount and just kind of left a small residue behind.
Yeah, and the reason why we say that because after the whole black rain sequence, then you see people kind of like going around a certain building with people in somewhat radiation suit, but it was it was like a half-hearted radiation suit. Like, they were wearing it like this, but without the head, and they were scanning it, and even though the radiation, detector was going off a little bit, but it wasn't, like, spiking. It was like...
Yeah, you kind of hear the Geiger counters going kind of like that.
Yeah, it was on the lower end instead of, like, blasting it really loud, thinking, "Oh my God, there's a massive one." And this one's like, "Yeah, there's a little bit of it." And people, and you have a lot of citizens surrounding the whole building too. So it's like, it's there, but it's not nothing to be like, "Oh my God, get out of here! It's going to infect you and it could cause harm." It's like,
yeah, we don't like see a lot of radiation sickness. There's no cancer outbreak. There's there's nothing of that nature.
no, there's really isn't. And then of course, also too, there is a supposed funeral scene because the way that it looked like, the girl died.
Oh yeah, she got blown away by all that blast wave.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily see her come flying back. You just see her get flying away, which at that point you're probably and everyone will probably assume that she probably landed somewhere like the walls or whatever really hard and probably killed her.
Oh yeah, and actually when the nuke not the nuke, but when Godzilla he fires the atomic breath and it explodes like a nuke,
yeah.
and then you see all the mushroom cloud and the destruction.
Yeah.
You know what came into my mind?
Oppenheimer?
Now I have become death,
Yeah.
the destroyer of worlds. And I'm like, maybe this film is set in the same universe as Oppenheimer, but I don't think Christopher Nolan would want to hear that.
No, I don't think so either.
Because then he'll be like, this contradicts all the realistic science I had in there.
Yeah.
Which it does.
Yeah.
But I seriously could see this taking place in the same universe as Oppenheimer with all that nuclear explosion imagery.
Yeah, the imagery, yeah. Plus, it did look, not gonna lie, that that mushroom cloud with Godzilla right there does look like a really good wallpaper.
Oh, definitely. It was really epic because a lot of the imagery in this movie was really epic, and it evoked what made the Godzilla films so visually impressive.
Yeah, and then of course, the funeral scene happens, and then of course it's another sort of drama or issue. This time now with the.
It's mostly the humans figuring out, well, Godzilla's a massive problem, and we have to figure out how to defeat him.
Yep, and the other people are playing it out. Meanwhile, the family side of the issue, the baby is now,
She's a little girl at this point. I think kindergarten age.
I would say, well, because they found the baby. They found her when she was a baby. So assuming 1-year-old at the time, I'm assuming probably at this point 3, 4 or something like that. 3 or 4-year-old.
Maybe. I'm not quite sure if it was 3 or 4.
Because because she was a little bit at the stage of walking a little bit, but she was still very small and can only maybe a few words a little bit at a time.
Yeah, the only things I remember from this point onward after the initial attack sequence was basically it was basically how do I word this? Basically, Godzilla's a problem. We have to figure out how to defeat him, and of course, they do get a plan on how they're going to defeat the monster, and then the military's like, you fought a war for us, but we need to ask you to put your lives on the line again.
Yeah, even though the government's not really helping them out. But also, baby's saddened because she thinks, I think she started to piece a little bit that the mom is gone for a while, or at least hasn't come back. The main character, now PTSD, is now at a worsened state.
Yeah, because when the Black Rain scene falls down, he's like, yeah! Because he lost someone he loved so dearly.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted him to shout out, I'm gonna kill you, Godzilla!
Well, he was almost kind of in that phase. He didn't really say it, but he kind of yelled it.
Yeah, and this is actually a similar plot point to the anime Godzilla trilogy, where the main character of that film, he basically lost his family to Godzilla, and then he swears revenge on Godzilla.
Yeah.
So it's we're doing a similar plot point with this.
Yeah, and again, the PTSD and all that trauma is worsening within this guy, basically. And of course, as it's like that. Then that's where the scientist is like, "Hey, we're kind of forming this group to sort of figure out a way to kill Godzilla. Do you want in?" Then he joins in that group. He signs up for it, and they get to the meeting, and that's when they discuss the plans. And
basically, their plan is we're going to sort of attach these devices to Godzilla, which will sink him all the way to the bottom of the ocean.
At a rapid rate, too.
And hopefully, he will die if we sink him that far below. But then the main character's like, what if that fails? You got a plan B?
Which then their plan B was to do the reverse, basically. which is the devices will pull up like air floaties,
inflatable rafts,
and then do the reverse and just raising them back up at a rapid rate.
Oh yeah. And so once they get that plan sorted out, they basically show him this like plane he's gonna fly on the mission. There were only like a few of these ever tested, but we kept this one in really good shape. We're gonna use it again.
It was rusty, but it needed repairs to get flowing again. It was like not flyable yet, but it needed like a mechanic to get it going again. Which then the main character was like, I know one guy that can do it. And it was the mechanic from the small island from the beginning, which he probably, some people probably speculate he did not want to be found.
Yeah, he did not. But they do find him, and then he comes back, and then he dumps this water on him.
Yeah, it was just more of like, it's more of, they didn't find him, he found them, or at least came out of hiding in a piss-off manner, because the main character wrote a letter trying to provoke him, even though it wasn't true, but he provoked him to get out of hiding, basically, to ask for his help.
And then he like sneaks up on the main character and like gets a wooden stick and then like hits him in the neck. I think he hits him in the neck.
Yeah, or it's in the head area where you knock him out cold. You don't kill him, but you knock him out for a little bit, and then just kind of like restrain him so that way he doesn't try to get away or anything like that. But the idea for this guy is like the mechanic's like, why did you write the letter here? Why did you say it was my fault? And the main character was like, I had to write that letter because I needed you to come out. I know I wouldn't be able to get you out initially. I had to provoke you to come out so I can ask you for your help. Mm. He's like, why should I help you? You didn't follow orders on that island.
Yeah, that was some really good drama, actually.
Yeah.
Good, nice character interaction to try and repair whatever it was between them.
Yeah. And then he kind of explained that there's a specialized, like, fighter, like a bomber of sorts, basically, or, like a fighter jet.
Hold on a sec. We gotta check on something quick.
Yep. Yeah,
Right.
It was a specialized fighter, and then he was trying to talk about his idea of sort of doing like a kamikaze himself, basically, against Godzilla.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about. We're gonna kamikaze Godzilla.
Or at least his idea of doing it. He didn't tell it to the others, but it was his initial idea of kamikaze Godzilla. Because he was telling him, the engineer, that it's the same creature from the island.
Yeah. And so basically, eventually, once they have their plan, then they go out to sea, because that's where they don't go out to sea. They find Godzilla attacking another parts of Japan.
Well, before that, though, he does come out of the sea, though. Although premature, though, because as they're repairing the jet, also, well, then it was finalized, too. But the Godzilla does initially get onto land prematurely. It was earlier than anticipated.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Compared to their plan. So then the guy's like, okay, we just have to get into our position and just hope that the main character can provoke him and lure him back out to sea.
Yeah, and so when Godzilla does come out prematurely, like you said, there were actually some really nice shots of him in his full glory. And as he's like walking on the land, we see him like destroy a house, and he's causing general chaos.
And I think I heard a dog kind of like whimpering a little bit.
There must have been something in there.
I thought I heard like an animal, like a pet-like creature whimpering a little bit.
Ah.
But anyways, though, I got to the point where as he was walking, though, the main character finally does get onto the fighter jet, or at least the 45 of, like, I will say, it's a fighter that was initially built to combat bombers.
Yeah,
as they were
I think they talk about that.
Yeah, so he gets on the fighter that was fully repaired by the engineers, and he flies up, and then he starts to provoke Godzilla, because he's kind of like swarming around him like a fly would to any other human, and we're just kind of like trying to swat at it. Or in his case, he was trying to bite at it, trying to snatch it out of the sky.
Although Godzilla never thinks to use the atomic breath to take him out midair.
Nope, which people initially was worried about that. They were worried that he may try to fire the atomic breath at him.
Yeah, because like I remember in the anime trilogy, Godzilla would fire out his atomic breath and like destroy any ships.
Yeah.
And then maybe there's been instances in the earlier films where he did shoot out his atomic breath to the flying monsters.
Yeah.
But I guess because it's so minuscule, like, maybe Godzilla's like, I could bite it, I could use my hands, I could use my tail, which I don't remember him using his tail at all.
Not a whole lot, but he was trying to go use more of his mouth, and he did only use the tail once in the land. Before then, it was just kind of like, okay, he's going to go chase sequence on him.
Definitely.
And then he gets out of the water, which then it's like, okay, it's hard to use the tail then at that point when he's just swimming.
Well, maybe Godzilla could charge up his atomic breath, and as he's swimming, he, like, shoots out.
Yeah, which you almost thought it could happen, but he never did try to go on, go like, pew, pew.
Or he could fire out a quick fireball, because I think Godzilla is capable of that. At least in some of the video games, I know Godzilla can fire out quick fireballs.
Yeah, but he doesn't do that. He swims towards them, which then initiates the plan.
Yeah, they basically get their ships out there, and then they, like, get this ring out, and they're cornering Godzilla, and they get all the stuff attached to him. And then when the moment is right, because he's charging up his atomic breath, they're like, do it now!
Well, first thing first, they let out a decoy just so they could get the initial, like, the atomic breath, out of the way first because he has to recharge it. So he blows it up, and then they're all like, oh, crap, that's his breath? Oh, my God. It's like, no, we still have to go through the plan. He needs time to recharge. This is our time to get it before he recharges again.
Yeah, like, and these sequences were actually really fun to watch, I won't lie.
And that's when the main Godzilla theme kicks in a little bit.
Oh yeah, it kicks in again, because this is, like, very serious.
Yeah, because then it goes dun 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 dun
Dun, 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 dun.
as they're kind of like encircling him and then kind of like going like this, just so that way they can wrap him around these devices onto him.
Yeah, and then after the devices are wrapped around, they're like, do it now! And then they activate him, and he gets pulled down, and then they're like, 1,000 meters, 1,200, 1,500.
Yeah, it's like 1,500. He's right below the passing point, and he was already glowing to at that point. He was ready to fire, but as they were getting as he was getting close to the depths, he just went. He stops. He's just like, nope.
Yeah, he just, like, suddenly stops. And you know what came into my head when that happened?
Yeah.
Remember on Windows XP, the shutdown noise?
Yeah.
Dun, 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 or something like that. You remember Windows XP? It had that, like, when you shut down the computer, it had that noise letting you know it's being turned off.
Yeah.
Din, 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 or however it goes.
Yeah.
That's what came into my mind when that happened.
Yeah. Or in my head, it was more of like he realizes that he was getting sucked down and getting closer to at the bottom, and he's like, nope, I'm good. I'm not gonna fire.
But then eventually he, like, starts. It doesn't really work. That's when they initiate their Plan B.
Yeah, Plan B, because they realize like, nope, he's not dead yet because he didn't blow up or anything like that. Whatever. Nope, we gotta go to Plan B, which then they reactivate the air rafts.
They activate the air rafts, and he's kind of freezing up, sorta.
Or kind of like ripping apart almost, because it's like, you're floating back up at a rapid rate, so it's like, okay, but he can regenerate, so it may not do anything. So they brought him back up, but then he stops midway.
Yeah, he stops midway, and then he's charging up the atomic breath again.
Not yet, not yet, because they're like, why did he stop? And all of a sudden, the ripped up air rafts came up, and it's like, oh, he's biting his way out of it.
Yeah, he's chewing through it now. I remember he's chewed through it.
Yep. So then it's like, oh crap! Now he can't get back up, and then that's when the civilians.
They bring in they bring in all their tugboats to help out.
Yep. And then they kind of tug off on the military ships to kind of like pull them. They just trying to pull them up so that way the Godzilla can get lifted again. And then that's when he kind of like gets out of like, okay, now you're really squeezing me.
Yeah, and Godzilla's all angry, so he's charging up his atomic breath. He's gonna strike again. He looks really angry in this shot where he's about to shoot out. But then the main character, he, like, flies the plane directly into Godzilla's mouth.
Which was the untold Plan C, which is, as he was delivering the charge up breath, fighter comes in and he already has bombs in place in the front of the aircraft.
Yeah.
And flying in a kamikaze way, basically.
Yeah, so he lands the plane inside Godzilla's mouth and then...
But luckily, he got himself ejected because the engineer secretly built it in an ejection seat. So that way, just before he crashes, he can eject. He can eject out of the ship.
Yeah. And actually, now that I think about it, this sequence where he flies and kamikazes in Godzilla's mouth and then blows up, and then you see nothing but the jaw, and you see the jaw and no head.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in Jaws when the oxygen tank's in Jaws' mouth, and then Brody's like, "Smile, you son of a." And then all you see is the body and just no head and the jaw.
Yeah.
It's like that. But I also realized kind of what this is. There's this thing in movies where, like, someone's in an aircraft and then they fly straight into the object or the monster to blow it up.
Yep.
Sometimes they'll eject, other times they won't.
Yeah.
Like in Independence Day, for instance, one of the characters flies a fighter jet into the alien's core ship and he's like, "Hello, boys, I'm back!"
Yep, blows up the core, or at least the device that was shooting the laser, which because of that, it blows up the ship itself.
Yeah, and then it falls down. He's like, "He did it! He blew up the ship!"
Yep.
It's kind of like that almost.
Yeah, but instead in this case, and he was about firing too, I was expecting more of like a, kind of like in those sequences where it's like, you land into like the mouth, and because of that, he's trying to fire, but because it hits impact right there, he implodes. Kind of like a...
Yeah, I was kind of expecting that too, where he would just like there'd be a massive explosion.
Yeah.
Because we kind of see these blue lights coming out of the body, and you're like, "Oh, is he gonna blow up? Is there gonna be a massive explosion?" No, he just kind of falls apart and disintegrates.
Yeah, because it's kind of like lights was coming up, and you're like, "Oh, is he gonna blow? Is he gonna actually blow up this time?" Nope, he just crumbles. At least the body part crumbles. And then that's when everybody just kind of like salutes.
Definitely. And actually, in the God of War games, whenever you kill one of the Greek gods, and I'm talking like the original 6, because I have not played the Norse ones, but in the original 6, whenever one of the gods died, they would like sort of, there'd be light coming out of them, and then they would blow up.
Yeah.
Although when you kill Hermes, he disintegrates. He doesn't really blow up.
Yeah.
But that's another thing I was bringing up.
Yep. And then they kind of get off, they finally return back home in a victory sort of way. And also, the lady holding the daughter, basically now, she hands the guy, the main character, a letter or a note, because it's like, wait, what was this for? Because initially when she got a lot of money and stuff like that, and it was initially kind of like a take care of her as if it was like a final goodbye.
Oh yeah.
But he survives, and she brings him not only the kid and everything back, but the note, which was like, what did the note say? Which then he charges to the hospital, and Vic finds out that somehow the girl survives.
Yeah, it's like, how did she survive that? Because like, you must have been extremely lucky.
It probably was, because the only thing she suffered was head damage.
Yeah, head trauma and maybe a few burns.
And maybe a few burns, and then an eyesight, at least on the right eye.
Yeah, and I think I saw her arm was like in a cast or something.
Yeah, I think so too, or whatever the case was. At the very least, the right eye and the head area was like not in the greatest. Well, it was like, it looked like something might have happened in the head area a little bit, but not too much. But then I think she wasn't up. Right arm was like in a cast, so it's like, you must have got off really lucky if the only thing you suffered was head damage, right eye being gone, and an arm being on a cast.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I don't even know how she survived that. Because, like, in real life, you would not survive something like that.
Or, I don't know if she was in a cast. Either way, I know at least the head area, I was like, you are very lucky, lady.
Yep. And, of course, as we move on from the characters and everybody's kind of, like, together and they have their victory, we then cut back to one of the pieces of Godzilla. I think this was his heart.
Yeah, or at least the main body of sorts. And it was regenerating.
Yeah, meaning that, he's coming back.
Yep. Well, of course, that was the end of the film.
Yeah, and then we were waiting to see if there was maybe a post-credit, which there wasn't. But they do have the stomping noises and the roar at the end, which I'm like, that's a pretty good way to close it off.
Yep. The stomp, 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 and then the roar while still being in black for credit scenes wise. I thought they were going to cut to him kind of like back on land with a roar or something like that. Like a surprise cut with him close-up roar.
Yeah, they could have done that, but the previous movies did that. I guess they didn't want to do it this time.
Just to not get any jump scares, or
Not really a jump scare. It's more like we did that in earlier films where you see him roaring at the end. Let's kind of not do that.
Yeah.
But we'll suggest a sequel if we do make one, which
Yeah.
I can see this getting more movies.
What, -2?
Not -2, but more like a follow-up of sorts.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's only so much you can do with Godzilla before you get like super exhausted, you know?
Yeah.
Because like you look back at the older films, there's a lot of monster fights or commentary on a scientific issue or a political issue, and it's like there's only so much you can do before you like get completely exhausted.
Yep.
But they'll figure something out.
They'll figure something else indeed, but that's about it, really.
Yeah, and I mean, for what it's worth, I really did enjoy this. I thought this was a nice return back to roots for Godzilla. It's very much close to what the original 1954 film was.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a more serious and very dark and engaging kind of movie where it's not cheesy, it's not silly, there's no big monster fighting. This is more of like, basically, they want to remind you what made Godzilla so great to begin with.
Yeah, with Godzilla being like the main, you could say, antagonist of the film, and the human drama a little bit, even though, once again, it probably wasn't it was one of their weaker points, although it is somewhat stronger than some of the other Godzilla human characters.
Yeah, like these characters, I mean, they were pretty good. They still kind of fit archetypes, but I would say, these were pretty good characters, sort of evoking what had been seen in the original film.
Yeah.
And I would say this movie is a real treat for Godzilla fans.
Yeah. Although I was kind of on a little bit of a warning, though, if you do see the film, it is sub, not dub.
Yeah, because I told you about this, and you said you were perfectly okay with that?
Yeah, I was perfectly fine with it just because I have watched a lot of, animes and stuff like that, so I've already, adapted to the sub, type of that thing. So hearing all the, the original voice of the Japanese characters with the subtitle is fine. I'm used to that, so that this was perfectly fine for me. But for some who are more are used to hearing it in English, or if they do see anime but prefer dub, it's going to be a lot of it more in sub, so be wary of that.
I mean, yeah, I had no issues watching this in its original language in the subs. I was able to follow what they were saying.
Yeah.
But for some people, I can understand it's going to be really frustrating because you don't want to pause the screen just to read what they're saying.
Yeah, because sometimes they can say something short, but the meaning of the of what they're saying is long. So they could say something that sounds short, but it means something longer, which then it'll be popping up for a second or two and then goes away, and then they have to move on to the next sentence.
Yeah, and at least with the authenticity angle, because the previous Godzilla films, many people have mocked the dubbing for being bad.
Yep.
The words don't match up with what they're saying.
Yeah. And
it's pretty easy to make fun of that stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's more authentic, this really came from the studio. This is not a bad job or anything. This was exactly how it needed to be.
Speaking of studios and whatnot, side note for all the gaming people, we noticed in the credit scene, Square Enix took part of the film.
Yeah, the Square Enix had a part in this, and I'm like, what did they do? What was Square Enix's contribution to this?
I wonder if it's some the CGI effects or something like that, knowing that it's a lot more of the gaming industry.
If Square Enix did contribute to the CGI in this was actually really, really good.
Yeah.
Because I have seen Square Enix games where their graphics look pretty well done.
Yeah. So
it's okay, maybe that's what they did.
And I know their latest one of their latest games was Final Fantasy 16, which size-wise, they did do Titan really well, or at least Lost Titan, which is a ginormous creature. Or not creature, but icon, basically. So giant, literally a giant Titan.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so maybe that was their contribution, and I mean, maybe more gaming companies will lend their CG rendering assets, and we could see some really good CGI and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, because definitely in terms of CGIs and stuff like that, that would be a good idea, is to look at the gaming industry and be like, can you support us in the CGI effects? Because they do, every gaming industry tries to do upgrades their CGI effects to kind of like
more photorealistic.
Yeah, more photorealistic as possible. So the idea of bringing a gaming industry into a movie for the better CGI effects is not that bad of an idea. It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, because like the gaming industry has caught up with the way our modern films look. So it's like I could probably see more collaborations happening.
Yeah, but it was kind of like an interesting like catch of seeing Square Enix takes part of a Godzilla film, and my guess, just thinking about it, would be its CGI effect.
Yeah, and at least they did not hire Activision or EA or another infamous gaming company to do this.
Well, it makes a lot more sense with Square Enix since it is a Japanese film and a lot of it took place in Japan. They needed Japanese collaborations, so Square Enix makes sense. The other one would have been Capcom.
Capcom lending their assets would have been really interesting.
Yeah, although I can see a lot more of it when it comes to like Resident Evil or Monster Hunter or like Street Fighter or other Capcom games.
Oh, definitely. But imagine if Nintendo did a contribution to this. They would make it look more cutesy and family friendly.
They already took their part of the filming industry with the Super Mario Bros.
Oh, yeah. And they've got more stuff cooked up.
Yeah.
Although, how are they going to respond to the Legend of Zelda film that Sony wants to play a part with?
That will be interesting, with the Legend of Zelda. I know Borderlands is also supposedly having their own movie coming out soon.
That's coming, but I haven't seen any trailers for it yet.
There was another... Oh, Fallout! Fallout is also coming out eventually soon.
Yeah, isn't Amazon Prime doing that?
I think so, or something like that, yeah.
Well, you better hope they finish that one and it doesn't just work.
Yeah.
But then again, Todd Howard has no say in that. I probably don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, I mean, we had a good time watching this.
Oh yeah, it was a good time.
This was probably the most authentic Godzilla film since Shin Godzilla.
Yeah.
And I did see Shin Godzilla in the cinema when there was a limited release of it in the cinema back in 2016. And I mean, when Japan makes a Godzilla film, it's going to be really authentic because they know Godzilla better than anyone else.
Yeah, since they're the ones that created it in the first place.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I don't know what's next, but whatever they come up with next, they'll come up with something.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. And I mean, whether it's a monster fight or a political or scientific commentary, or maybe they could do a Godzilla film that comments on AI, and you could have an AI-controlled Mechagodzilla that's not piloted by humans, Because all previous versions of Mechagodzilla were piloted by humans. Maybe you could have the first AI-controlled Mechagodzilla, and that could be a commentary on AI technology.
Sort of happened with Kong versus Godzilla.
But that was not really AI. That was Ghidorah's consciousness getting a mechanical body.
Yeah, it was sort of. That's why I say sort of. Not really, because it is Ghidorah, but yeah.
Well, that film was out to be more entertaining than have any kind of commentary. And then, I think I would say, if you're a Godzilla fan, go see this. This is worth it.
Yeah.
If you, I will say, I'll tell people this too. You don't have to watch any of the previous films to get into this because you could start here and you'll be perfectly fine. If you want to see the earlier Godzilla films, there's a lot of them. Mm-hmm. If you want to include the American ones and the animes too, you can do that as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this was a really good time.
Yep.
But I will say this though, we did not get a trailer for Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire in front of this.
No, I think the first one we saw was an animated trailer from Japan.
Studio Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki.
Yep, it was the boy and the Pharaoh.
And his heron.
Yep.
And, I mean, Hayao Miyazaki is beloved in the anime community, so this will get rave reviews. I'm not doubting that for a sec.
And then we got some other films, too.
There was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Oh, yep, that
which is a sequel to Afterlife.
Yep. Then we also got...
Well, actually, before we move on to the other two, with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, the very first shot is like, there's this massive storm coming, and then it freezes New York City.
Freezes them all to death.
Yeah, and I'm like, is this a sequel to Geostorm? Because the visuals look like they came straight out of Geostorm.
Yeah.
Or The Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah.
It felt like that.
Yeah.
And then, as soon as the Ghostbusters come in, okay,
Yeah, well, that's when you saw the logo, and it's like, oh, Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to go, though, because I did not see Afterlife. The only Ghostbusters I've seen in its entirety was the original film.
Yeah, which, although the movies adaptations are kind of like the sequels to the original Ghostbuster.
There was Ghostbusters 2, and then the original Ghostbusters 3 never got made.
Yep.
Although, technically, there was a video game that kind of adapted what Ghostbusters 3 could have been had they made it.
Yep.
Of course, Harold Ramis died.
Yep.
And then came the infamous 2016 reboot, which I think everybody has pretty much moved on from that. Nobody really likes to talk about that one anymore.
Yeah, with the casting choice right there. And then, of course, the Afterlife. And then this one coming up, too.
Yeah, and Afterlife, from what I've heard, was basically, okay, the 2016 film was divisive. Let's get back on the highway. We're going to apologize for that.
Yeah, they kind of left the reboot non-canon, it felt like, and made the original cast, back to where it was.
Yeah, and the director of the 2016 reboot, he actually had a meltdown about that multiple times, it being not canon,
Yeah.
And I'm like, grow up. No one.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that didn't like it anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe there's people that sort of kind of liked it, because I'm pretty sure there is, but that was a very divisive movie.
Yeah, that was.
So that's just kind of the thing with Frozen Empire is, like, I don't really have this massive attachment to Ghostbusters like so many other people do. So that one will probably be for people who would really like Ghostbusters.
Yep. And then the other two films.
There was a movie about Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. They work on films together.
Oh, yeah, they were workout films, but then one night happened, and then all of a sudden, now he's being chased by, like, a mobster.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those films where it gets released, but I don't really pay attention to it.
It's like a comedy action comedy.
Yeah, there's been kind of a rise of some of that as of late. Like, there was one with John Cena and Sandra Bullock.
Yep. And then the final one.
This one I was really anticipating because I was really excited to see this actually.
Which is the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is basically now we're at the point of it is now the reverse. Monkeys talks, humans don't.
Yeah, and I actually kind of want to talk about this one a little bit. But basically, I heard the trailer was released, but I put off seeing it because I wanted to see it in the cinema.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to it.
It does look interesting.
Because this is a continuation of War for the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
We've wrapped up Caesar's storyline, so now we're continuing with his legacy. And this time around, the apes are fully talking.
Yep.
So we're going to have more fully talking apes, and the humans are more feral, which is what it was in the original film.
Yep, they going back to the kind of like the original human form, which is kind of like primordial.
Yeah, and it's like this has me really excited because I've liked the rebooted series. I really liked Rise, Dawn, and War.
Yeah,
they were a fantastic trilogy, and so the fact that we're getting a continuation of this, like War, felt like a definitive ending to the storyline that was telling. But this looks promising. I actually want to see it.
Yep.
And, of course, we see some apes in the trailer. One of them's got a crown on, and he's got a cape, and he's, like, fully talking.
Yeah.
It's like, this is going to be a lot of intrigue.
Yep.
And I'm just like, I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
But I do have to keep in mind, though, that Disney owns 20th Century Fox now, so this is technically a Disney film. I do not know how much influence they have had on it.
We'll see. It may not be a whole lot based off of the trailers, so you never know.
Because it's like Disney, after they bought 20th Century Fox, they're trying to continue the IPs that 20th Century Fox had for so many years.
Yeah.
But the problem is 20th Century Fox ran a good amount of their IPs into the ground.
Yep.
So it's like, how can Disney even possibly revive them and make them any good?
Yeah.
Like, they kind of did this with Predator, like the new Prey film, which was on Hulu.
Yep.
Prey's, I would say, is not the best of the Predator sequels, as people pointed out.
Yep.
It was well made, but it's kind of like a side deal. Like, it doesn't really have anything building up to the other Predator stuff. It's kind of a standalone story. And so it's like Disney wants to make another Alien film, and it's going to get a theatrical release. It's called Alien Romulus. And it's not going to continue off of Covenant. It's going to tell a completely standalone storyline.
All right.
I do want to ask, though, when Romulus comes out, would you go see it?
I gotta see what it displays for. I want to see the trailer of it first before I make any, any judgments or any decision.
Yeah, because I heard the people behind it. It was the same people that did Don't Breathe, the first Don't Breathe, and the Evil Dead reboot. I think that's who's doing the next Alien film.
So,
but yeah, it's going to be completely standalone with its own characters.
Yeah. So I want to see at least the trailer or two first before I make a decision on seeing it or not.
Yeah, because that's the thing with the Alien series. It's been, it's in the gutter, and it's not where it used to be with its full glory. And so, I mean, I'll see how it happens, but it's like, I just want another good Alien film.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, I will say this. With Godzilla X Kong, we did not get a trailer, but it's around the corner. The teaser posters have been coming out. It's coming, guys. It's coming.
Yep.
And that's coming out next year, and I'm actually looking forward to that one.
Yep.
Because I do want more installments in the MonsterVerse.
Yep.
I have not seen Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, which is on Apple TV.
Oh yeah, because that's supposed to be a little bit about Godzilla and his kind of like almost side story almost.
It's kind of, from what I've heard, it's like basically exploring the different monsters that Monarch has found. It's kind of like a legacy of sorts, where we're learning about all these beasts. I've seen stills from it, but no actual clips or footage. Yeah. Because I'm trying to keep myself pure for that one. Right. And then there's the Skull Island anime on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
But with the next movie, the rumor is that the big villain of the next movie could either be Biollante or Space Godzilla. But you're saying that big orangutan-looking guy.
It looked like it, just because he was, at least on the teaser, which I showed you, or sent to you.
Yes, you did.
He was sitting on a throne, and he looked like he had electrical eyes of sorts. And right as you're kind of going back, there's like a piles of, bones everywhere.
Yeah, you see Godzilla and Kong's skull.
Yeah.
Which is not the Godzilla and Kong we have, but probably previous ones.
Yeah. So it looked like he was like the new enemy of sorts, basically.
Yeah, and the electrical abilities are a reference to the Toho Kong, where he could do these electrical powers.
Yeah.
So maybe that's that. But I really want Biollante to be the villain of this, because Biollante I could see working. Because Biollante is basically a plant Godzilla hybrid with a little human DNA in there, at least in the original.
Yeah.
But inside the Hollow Earth, maybe Biollante, there's Godzilla cuts himself or something in a monster fight, and then it fuses with this radioactive plant material, and then that creates Biollante.
Yeah.
I could see that being done, because Space Godzilla came after Biollante.
Yeah.
And if we follow the original lore, Space Godzilla was kind of basically a creation of spores from Biollante that got carried out into space and then mixed with crystals. I think Mothra carried him out. I'd have to watch it again.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
But anyways, though, to wrap it up, I think the next film we'll be watching is, together will be
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I've heard the box office projections on that are looking kind of weak.
Yeah.
It might be easy for us to get in.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's getting closer to... It's right around Christmas time when Aquaman 2 releases. And as we all know, when Christmas time comes around, we have to spend time with our families and stuff. So we may have to put that one off a bit. So do not expect it to release around that weekend.
Yeah.
But we will be there. We will definitely go see it. And then I did mention possibly in the past Rebel Moon. But I think we'll watch that one on our own terms and sort of present our opinions on that before Aquaman.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, Zack Snyder and DC have a connection together.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll do. But we're going to be there for Aquaman. You wait. And I think the main thing I want to get from Aquaman 2 is, how's it going to lead directly into the reboot?
I guess so. I think maybe some of its epilogues will answer that, or the ending will answer that questions.
Probably, because Superman Legacy is the next movie after this.
Yep.
And then James Gunn has a bunch of TV shows that are coming up. He did confirm, actually, you are going to see Jon Stewart in the reboot. It's a Green Lantern TV show where Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart go on an adventure together.
All right.
So you're going to see Jon Stewart in this universe.
That'll be fun. I wonder who's going to be Jon Stewart then.
Well, they haven't figured that out yet. But when it gets closer, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But I do know Jon Stewart was in the Snyder Cut. And there's there's images of him.
Yeah.
But they ultimately cut him in favor of Martian Manhunter. But the point of him in the Snyder Cut was supposed to set up the Green Lantern Corps coming to fight Darkseid.
Oh yeah.
And basically, it would have had their own standalone film had it
Yep.
been made. But yeah, we will see Jon Stewart show up in the reboot at some point.
All right.
So yeah, Aquaman 2 will be our next one. And if you get a chance to see this movie, I would say go check it out.
Yep.
I have no idea how long it's going to be in the theater. But if you want to wait maybe until a streaming release or if it gets a physical media release, go ahead. This was actually a really good time.
Oh yeah, for Godzilla. Yep.
And many of the reviews said this is one of the best films of 2023. Which, okay, I can see where they're coming from. For me, though, it was well done. It's exactly what I expect from a Godzilla film.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just go as far as to say this was the best thing I've ever seen.
Maybe in terms of authentication a little bit, but yeah. Yeah. But it definitely was a really good film.
Oh, definitely. Like, this was about as good as it's going to get.
Yep.
And, yeah, Aquaman 2 is the next one. We will be there. I don't know when it'll come out, but we'll be there.
All right.
Hang tight.